Ben and I are both cohort leads, and we do project reviews. And for a lot of students, the most difficult part of the project review is often live coding because it combines like multiple skills like writing out pseudocode, communicating your thought process, and looking up documentation. And for that reason, Ben and I have decided to do a mock assessment where we will be going through some practice questions that should give you some idea of what you will need to know for the phase one project review. And with that said, Ben, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate some of the goals for this little 30-minute session, just making sure that people have a visual of what live coding looks like. What does it consist of? And David, you're not grilling me with conceptual questions, right? You just give me a live coding challenge. Okay, good. I mean, it's fine if you want to ask me conceptual questions. I should have the answers, but yeah. So really focus on live coding. What does it look like? What does pseudocode look like? How does that process work out? And then kind of the process of problem solving and validating, which I think is an important part of live coding, because one of the things that is kind of fundamental to what live coding is this experience of pressure. So when you're feeling pressure, when you're feeling stressed out, the validating process becomes more important than normal, because you want to kind of give yourself a sense of security, like, okay, what I did is good, I'm moving forward, I got this, I can do this. So I'm going to share my screen and let's do desktop 2, and then I can just move my thing over there. Let's just open up this Replit. So I have not seen this challenge, which is supposed to be helpful to creating a sense for me, of what it's like. Of course, it is a little different in the sense that I've had a lot of practice thinking about JavaScript, and so probably at a more, just generally have more confidence than some students might be going into this just feeling nervous, like I just got through the curriculum and I made my project and I hope that I'm good. But we can talk a little bit more at the end about how you might develop some of your confidence so that you're ready to go. Okay, so now I will pretend to be a student. Go ahead, David. Hit it.
Okay. All right, Ben. We're going to move on to our the live coding portion of this project review. And if you go to script.js, you will see the instructions for the first question. So there are 3 parts. I don't expect you to get through all 3 in the time we have, but I would just like to see your I'd like to see you live code in action. And all right, so the first part, so just to start with what this website is about. It is a discount guitar store, and if you scroll up, you can see this guitars array, and it has a list of guitars, and each guitar has a name, color, and price. And for the first part, what I want you to do is when the user clicks on the All Guitars button, which I think do you see on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. When the user clicks All Guitars, I want to see the name of each guitar displayed inside the guitars container, which, if you look on the screen, is the gray thing underneath All Guitars. And you're going to be using the render all guitars function to display the guitars on the page.
Right. Okay, so I'll just tackle part 1, and if I get through it, then we can try part 2 as kind of a follow-up.
Yes.
So yeah, you said a bunch of words. I'm kind of having some feelings about all of this stuff in my face. Let's see. So as you said, you've got all guitars, and then you've got this guitars container, and my task is to have this button clickable. Right now nothing happens when I click it, but when I click it, it's going to display the name of all the guitars inside the guitars container. Yes. And I'm going to use this function to do that.
Right.
So I'm thinking pseudocoding wise, I need to first grab the all guitars button.
Mhm.
Although you may have done that for me. Then I need to add an event listener
Mhm.
to the button. And the event listener should cycle through the guitars array and ... Trying not to say too much in each of these, so I'm kind of mentally thinking about how I'm breaking that apart.
Mhm.
What I'm doing with each of the, so each one of these things is an object. So I'm really only interested in the name.
Right.
Display the name of all the guitars. And so I'm just going to I could just create a paragraph tag
Mhm.
and add the name of the guitar in the paragraph tag, and then append the paragraph tag to the guitars container, which has already been grabbed for me. So I left that out, but that's okay because it's there. And I think that's,
Yeah.
I mean, this is basically the kind of 3-step process for getting something new on the page. I mean, what I put it in is doesn't depends on the situation, but since the task doesn't say, I'm just gonna make it a paragraph tag. How is that looking in terms of pseudocode to you? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, that looks pretty thorough. I think you covered all the steps of like how you would get the information and display on the page. So that sounds like a good plan.
Okay. So grab the all guitars button. And I, as I said, I
Yeah.
think that's already done for me. Um, I personally like this pop out window
Mhm.
situation because I just like to interact with the page more like
A real page.
I would on my project. Can I see a little error message here, but I'm not going to worry about that because I don't think it has anything to do with this.
Right.
Okay, so add an event listener to the button. Here we go. This is
Okay.
first bit of coding here. All guitars button dot add event listener. And then I have to have the event, and I have to have the callback function.
Right.
Callback function here, I'm just going to have be a very quick um, anonymous callback function that just says, hey, so that I can see that I've set my event listener up correctly. I need to
Okay.
refresh here. And that's a good sign. Okay, so I know my event listener is working, so I'm good on this one. Cycle through the guitars array. Okay, I'm going to give myself some more space here, and I'm going to call guitars dot for each, and I'm feeling a little hazy on for each, so I'm going to look up for each JavaScript.
Okay. Okay. The first link looks good. MDN is a good site for looking up documentation.
All right. So very simple. The thing on the left of the dot is the array, and then after for each, I've got the parentheses. And actually, I like just copying this
Okay.
over so I have it to reference. I can comment it out so it's not interfering with things. But basically, yeah, element, and I'll call my element guitar
Okay.
because it's an individual guitar. And at this point I could stop again and just check and make sure things are working properly. So
Okay.
let's take a look, go back here, refresh. Okay, nice, good. I still got the hey. All right, I can get rid of that. Oops, don't want to do too much. Okay, so now I'm into the actual action of what needs to happen. So again, I'm going to give myself some space to code here.
Okay.
I'm cycling through the guitars array, and now, right, 3 steps. I'm going to do let P equals paragraph, document dot create element P, and then I'm going to do P dot inner text equals, we'll just do hot dog, and then I want to append it. So guitars container dot append.
Okay.
I'm just going to put P on there and see what happens. So let's see what happens. All right. And all guitars.
We got an error message. And which line is the error on?
Yeah. Okay. 49. It's looking like. Oh, it's a spelling error. Okay. That's
Okay.
no biggie. Create element. All right. Let's go back and try it again.
Okay.
And all guitars. Hey, okay, I got hot dogs.
Good.
All right. And so now I'm going to take out hot dog and just focus on, what did I want? The name of the guitar. So this would be guitar dot name.
Okay.
And let's see here. Refresh guitars. Nice.
All the guitars. Okay. Yeah. So that looks like you came to a solution, and okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Now I didn't do it quite the way it was
Right.
intended to be done, right? Because
Right.
I should have called render all guitars, but I just kind of ignored that.
Okay. I mean, you came to like a working solution, but if you can think of a way to like refactor your code to use render all guitars, that'd be good. I mean, the advantage of that is that if we did that, then we can, potentially use multiple arrays,
Yeah. Well, I think it just looks like array is going to be in here. So it would be like this part needs to be in here, but instead of saying guitars, I need to say array.
Okay. And you can get rid of the brackets around array, the curly brackets around array.
Okay. And then I need to actually just invoke render all guitars here with guitars passed in as the argument.
Hmm.
And let's see if that works the same. Okay, good.
It worked.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so now we can move on to the second part. Okay, so for the second part, you'll be basically, it's similar to the first part, but this time when you click budget guitars, you're just going to see the guitars that cost less than 500. And if you scroll up to our array, we can see that each guitar has a price. So we just want to display the ones that are less than 500.
Okay, so I can use some of what I've done because I'm going to have the same kind of click event, then something happens action.
Okay.
So, and I can see that I've also been given here the button and the container.
Mhm.
So I don't need to grab the button, but I need to add event listener to the button.
Mhm.
And I need to, what's happening in the event listener? I'm going to call the render budget guitars in the event listener callback and pass in the smaller, or okay, well, that actually makes me think there's a step in between here because
Right. Yes.
I need to make the guitars array smaller and only get the ones that are less than 500.
Mhm.
That's a price. So I have to think about how to do that. Call tenor render guitars and let's pass in the smaller array. And then
Okay.
I can really lean on that render guitars. So I'm going to use the code from above to do something similar
Mhm.
with getting the names into budget guitars.
Okay.
Okay, so the only one that's not mapped out well is this one,
Okay.
and because I'm not sure what method I should use, I'm going to do JavaScript array methods. I know there's some, it's just on the tip of my tongue, but I don't remember what it's called.
Okay. We can go to the first one.
I'm doing some schoolwork. What's up? I'm sorry. I'm multitasking. I answered the phone, but I'm doing some schoolwork. What's going on?
Sorry, could someone, I think someone's like needs to be on mute. Okay.
All right,
So
so
you see
push,
methods,
you got
push,
shift.
shift.
Wait, is this a good way to,
Hmm.
maybe I could be more descriptive about what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Oh, removing elements.
I think what you basically you want to do is you want to filter an array to see everything that just matches
Oh.
a certain.
That's it. Filter. JavaScript array method filter. Aha. Okay. There we go.
So
And
what does filter do?
So the way filter works is similar to for each. I've got the array on the left side of the dot, and then in here, this represents each one of these. And then I have a condition over here that's going to control whether or not it passes through the filter. So again, I'm going to take this because this is useful just to kind of give me something to work with and put it there. Okay, so let me get started. Budget guitars button dot add event listener, and then I'll throw in the click event, and I'm feeling more confident this time, so I'm just going to jump right to my body of my callback function in this is where I'm going to try to do my filter method.
Okay.
So, okay, so again, the singular of the plural is guitar. So I'm looking at each guitar in turn, and the condition I want, price cost less than 500. So price, so price less than 500. Okay. And then let's just console. Oh, wait a minute. I should save this. Let cheapies.
Okay.
And then I'll console log cheapies. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Over here. Oh, what is this?
The guitar button is not defined, and it seems like it's on line 72.
Yep. Oh yeah, just capitalize the B here. Okay. And so then we do it again. Clean.
You have an error message.
Okay. Price is not defined.
Hmm.
Right, because it's not a variable.
Right.
Oh, because it's an attribute of the guitar. So guitar.price.
All right. So that way we can, pull the information we want.
Yeah, let's see if that works.
Okay.
And budget. That's looking good. So
And
400, 100. Good.
okay.
So then from there, instead of console log cheapies, I can just do render. Oh, there you go. Render budget guitars cheapies, and
Okay.
then render budget guitars. Just need to. I said I was going to lean on this here.
Yeah.
Very similar, I think. Just go through the array that's provided, and take each one of those guitars, create a p tag, change the inner text to name, and append it. Let's see.
Okay. That looks like it worked.
Well,
Oh, it came up in the wrong place. I see. Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Right,
Hmm.
because it's
Right.
the budget guitars container.
Right.
And that, oop. And budget guitars. Okay, good.
That's good. All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's say, for example, like you're able to solve this, but let's say we want to avoid the step of first like let's say we want render budget guitars to just take an array of all the guitars and then find the ones that are less than 500. Could we basically refactor our code so that it render budgets guitars is also able to sort guitars as well, and find the guitars less than 500 as well?
Yeah, I would just change this so that the cheapies is happening here.
Okay.
And then this would take in guitars, and then this would have the receiver of array, because that's the one that I want to work on.
Okay.
Let's see if it works. Right, did it come back here? There we go.
Okay, displaying all of them. Okay, so
Um,
we're able to find all the guitars that are less than 500, but are we iterating through cheapies?
Aha, yes, right, because then I went back to array.
Right.
So I need to make sure I change that code too.
Okay. Looks like it works.
Cool.
All right, let's go.
So
Okay.
just in the interest of time and to give people the chance to ask questions, we don't have to stop right at the 30-minute mark, but I guess do people want to see the third one, or should we take questions or talk a little bit about the process? How are people feeling out there? Told you I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but then I asked you a question.
I guess what's your thought process on when you come across something that you're not sure how to do right away?
Yeah, that's the part that I felt was pretty unrealistic about it, because it was very smooth for me in terms of knowing exactly what to do. And that's a downside of doing this challenge is very similar to something you might actually see in phase one. So that's helpful because you get a sense of like what you'd be asked to do, but you're not really seeing me stumble through the pseudocoding in a meaningful way, because I feel very confident about those steps. And in a sense, like that's one thing to note there is you don't have to focus on all possible like tasks. There's some very kind of discrete things that you should be able to do and be expected to do in live coding. But the more general question is interesting. What do you do when you really don't know what the blueprint looks like? David, what's your response to that?
I would say, like, for something like this, you should probably, if you're stuck, like, think about what you want to see happen on the page. So maybe like for the first question, you think about like, all right, so what I want to see is I want to have, a bunch of like paragraph elements with each like individual guitar. And maybe if you don't know like a later step, maybe just focus on like trying to break it down into like smaller steps. So like I didn't know how Ben was gonna, doing this assessment. But I was thinking like, maybe if you didn't get to the step with like the iteration, like let's see if we can display the first guitar like on the page. So that way, instead of like breaking down into like, okay, display all the guitars on the page, like break it into like a smaller step, display the first guitar on the page. And after that, then let's work on, iterating and displaying all the other guitars. Is that does that help with So that can help, with finding a place to start.
Yeah. It really makes me think about a general problem solving approach, which is working forwards or working backwards. Like when you're trying to solve a problem, sometimes it's better to start at the beginning and think about, I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this. And sometimes if you are having trouble in that region, you can switch your perspective to working backwards and saying, well, this is what David was saying. I want to see these things appear on the page. Well, what do I need to do in order to do that, and kind of work backwards from there. So you can build the pseudocode from the front like I did, or from the back. Like I need to accomplish this. Well, this is the step I would need before that. So that's a possibility.
Another thing that Ben did was when he was working with like say adding an event listener for like when you click this button, you want something to happen, he would a lot of times he would console, create like a test. So like if I click this button, will it console log hey, for example? And that's like a good step because that way you make sure that like it's working before you write code. So it's good to also like test as you go along, even if it's maybe not something that obviously you want in the final code, but just to like make sure things are working as you go along. So that's like a good practice to do as well.
Yeah. And sometimes that's another problem solving technique, similar, where I put hot dogs in as the inner text, just so I didn't have the cognitive load of like worrying about how I was going to get the name of the guitar. Sometimes if you're working on a problem and you're struggling to wrap your head around it, you can just create a similar problem for yourself to solve. So an even similar problem to getting all of the names on the page would be to just get something on the page in that gray band. So if I'm struggling with that, can I just kind of focus on how do I accomplish that and remind myself that I can succeed at that, look up the documentation or whatever I need to do to kind of get to the point where I can get some text onto the page.
Yeah, like Ben mentioned, that would be a good place to start. If you're like kind of lost on how to get the data on the page, you could probably possibly just start by saying, okay, I want to create a paragraph element that says hot dog or hey, and get that into the gray section. And that way you can, instead of like trying to solve multiple problems at once, you can isolate into like the first actionable step.
Yeah, I
Cool,
mean,
thanks.
that's the biggest thing about problem solving, is not to get overwhelmed by solving 6 problems at once, but really to keep your mind sharp and focused on a thing that you can work on. And it can get messy because obviously you want to complete the task and you want to be successful, and you've got all that pressure building on you. And so you're kind of thinking about, what do I have to do? And what if I can't figure out this other step? But really, it's just like the simple saying, you can only do one thing at a time. So you got to pick your problem and you got to focus on that problem until you've kind of nailed it down. Unless you're feeling frustrated and you get stuck, and then you want to kind of like put that to the side and go. And I think that's more advice for like later code challenges, which get more complicated. But it is okay to like leave a part of the problem to the side for a bit and let it marinate while you focus on another part of the problem.
Right. Yes, that definitely is relevant in later assessments too, especially where you'll be working with multiple programming languages. So it's just kind of like you have to sometimes see it as like I'm just kind of chipping away at the problem, and
Right.
what's I can do to get closer to the solution. Like I might not know every step, but like what's something that can take me a little bit further towards the solution.
Right. So we do have any other questions? Happy to stay around, but I want to put the form in here because we're at time. The link to the survey. Just be good to get feedback, because we thought we might do this again, maybe have other people come and be the guinea pigs. Last thing I would say about getting yourself to a place where you feel more confident is practice. You need to practice, but you need to practice in the context of not using your project code or previous curriculum code to help you do the problem, but the only thing available to you is really the documentation. You saw how David limited my documentation search. I think I did a couple searches. But when I did this search, Mozilla is fine. I think W3 Schools is fine. But once you start getting into this stuff, this is okay, like for solving problems in real life. But in terms of live coding and practicing looking at documentation, you want to limit yourself to that when you're doing that. But you can take, more complicated labs and just take one task, one thing that you're trying to accomplish and say, okay, this is going to be a live coding challenge for me right now. I got 15 minutes and I'm only going to use documentation and I'll see how far I can get. Having those experiences, whether they're successes or failures, are going to teach you things about where you are in terms of live coding. And that's something that's really valuable. And I don't know that we're doing a great job of kind of helping people do that. So that's part of our goal here, is to just be more communicative about what you can do to practice and get ready.
Yes, and to build off what Ben was saying, during like live coding, you want to use official documentation sites, or like ones that are like, more, more reliable, like MDN or W3 Schools. You want to avoid sites like Stack Overflow, or you also want to avoid having to look at Canvas or other places in your code. You want, during the review, you just want to like try to stick to like sites like MDN or W3 Schools.
Yeah.